Hi, welcome in to today's video. Luckily, I'm so happy that somebody in the comments was able to give me a playlist of sort of an organized viewing for how to watch SCP or an SCP view list, basically. So I want to get straight into it very much. I'm very interested in this world. The other video I reacted to was really good. I'm assuming not every story is going to be of that quality or that degree of entertaining, but I am entertained enough, or I'm intrigued enough to want to look into more of SCP. So, without further ado, we're going to continue watching right now. Let us go. Oh, baby. I captured the audio this time, thank God. I'm learning as I go.
I'd like to show you an abyss. Locked within its depths are bewildering and uncanny abominations.
Okay.
The keepers of this abyss believe they are in control. They're wrong. This abyss is the universe of SCP, which began as a seemingly straightforward website where community members create and classify abominations. Yet from this site, the franchise has grown so vast, influenced so many people, that trying to fathom its totality feels like gazing into an unending expanse. So for this entry into the archive, I'll explore not just the universe itself.
Oh, that's so cool. They have so many boxes with so many. Oh, centipedes. Oh, I hate centipedes. I hate all the little legs. They give me the EBGs. Two girls and blood. Oh, this is like a container of monsters. But from what in the beginning he said, this is like community that makes classified monsters, which is really cool, entertaining to think about, and also shows, and I'm expecting a lot of different ideas and concepts being pushed out constantly, since we're getting so many different people from the community throwing ideas of SCPs, and then I'm assuming this is some kind of confirmation like process. It's like, okay, this is good enough for you to get approved. Is what I'm assuming. He said community, so it makes it even more interesting because it's not just one company with a story. It's a bunch of different smaller people with their own ideas and their own spins of things, and it all sounds very entertaining. Okay, sorry I paused too much there.
But how SCP became one of the most gargantuan and uncontainable forces on the internet.
Okay.
And to do that, I have to start at the beginning.
How did this start?
On June 22nd, 2007, an anonymous user made a post describing, in dry academic language, a concrete sculpture that moves when left unobserved, snapping the necks of anyone who breaks eye contact with it. The sparse description was accompanied by an image labeled SCP-173. At the time, meaningless letters and numbers. Nobody could have predicted that this was the birth of something astonishing. Flash forward several months, and numerous people were creating their own anomalies with the same—
Oh, wait. Let me read some of these. It's SCP-682. Oh, this is the one we saw last time. Object Class Keter. Don't know what that means. Special containment procedures. 682 must be destroyed as soon as possible. At this time, no means available to SCP teams are capable of destroying SCP-682. I mean, makes sense. He can adapt to anything. It says SCP-682 should be contained within a 5x5x5 meter chamber with 25 centimeter reinforced acid-resistant steel plate lining at all surfaces. The acid containment chamber should be filled with hydraulic acid until SCP-682 is submerged and incapacitated. Any attempts of SCP-682 to move, speak, or breach containment should be reacted to quickly and with full force as called for by the blank. Still recovering from acid immersion. Let's go back a little bit. I want to see the other ones. SCP-002. Euclid. Europe. Euclid. Yeah, I think that's how you would say it. Special containment procedures 002 is to remain connected to suitable power supply at all times to keep in what appears to be a recharging mode. In case of electrical outage, the emergency barrier between the object and the facility is to be closed and immediate area evacuated. Once the facility power is re-established, alternating bursts of X-ray and ultraviolet light must drove into area. Yeah, I have no idea what that does though.
Several months in
SCP-035, Object Class Keter, Special Containment Procedures to be kept within a hermetically sealed glass case, no fewer than 10 centimeters, 4 inches thick. This will be contained within steel, iron, and lead shield from all times. Doors will be triple locked at all times with no exception of allowing personnel in or out. No fewer than 2 armed guards are to be posted at times. Guards must remain outside at all times and are not allowed.
And numerous people were created.
E075 Euclid is a Persian. What the? SCP-560 safe. Foundation archival quality optics. Okay.
Creating their own anomalies.
It could be anything. All right, it could be anything. That's why I like this. It could be literally anything.
Label format. Most were rather simple, with SCP-628, for example, essentially being a reptile that's virtually invincible. But the universe was starting to take shape, with the SCP Foundation determined to be a secret organization responsible for containing and studying mysterious phenomena. And with this framework, things exploded. On the current website, there are more than 7,000 unique entries, many of which are exceedingly original. The entry for SCP-2521, for example, contains no text whatsoever, composed instead of strange infographics that are confusing at first, until you realize they're telling you about a monster that will appear if it's written or spoken about. It's some genuinely creative horror. But no two entries are the same.
Oh shit.
SCP-106,
yeah, that's Old Man.
The Old Man, is an unfriendly looking fellow who can corrode any surface and hunts humans. Classic, effective horror. SCP-294 is a coffee machine.
Yeah, we saw him in the last one with SCP-682, and then so he just started with a reptile that was really hard to kill, and now it went from that to what we saw over there, which was a really good story that I loved so much. And I gotta genuinely say that I'm excited to see what simple ideas they can make extraordinary stories from. I'm very excited to try and see what they do.
That can dispense anything, including abstract concepts like musical talent or lethal nuclear waste, which is definitely a new one. Certain posts have achieved unique popularity, like 049, aka the Plague Doctor, who looks like a human in a 15th century plague outfit until you look at an X-ray which reveals the mask is part of his body. This entity claims to have a cure to any disease, which, spoiler alert, is just death. Not every SCP will connect with every person, but there are so many entries with such distinct styles that it's practically a certainty that at least one post will draw you in. And once you're in, there's no getting out, because the posts themselves are just the tip of the iceberg. Many of the best entries on the site are text only, which has inspired a legion of talented artists to create their own renderings of what different SCPs might look like. That original SCP-173, for example, no longer has an image associated with it, because the initial photo was actually an unlicensed picture of the sculpture Untitled 2004 by Japanese artist Izumi Kato. But don't worry, because there are thousands of images reinterpreting the evil statue, some of which are really creative, like this one from Valdez Evia, an artist I've covered before on the channel. But it's not just famous SCPs that get this treatment. There are absolutely stunning works of art for the most obscure entries, and I think the reason has to do with the format of SCPs themselves. When you read an entry that speaks to you, it's hard not to obsess over what the anomaly might look like. And since many posts have no art of their own, that obsession often explodes out into artistic recreations.
That's awesome. That's wait. Oh, that's graphic. Wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. Look at this art though. Oh my god. I need to practice how to draw more. It makes me so inspired to see people this talented out there just doing art for this type of stuff. It's so cool. What is that, 682? I'm assuming that's 682. If so, look at the size of that guy. Look at the shading. Oh, that's so cool. Anyways, let's continue the video. Let's continue ahead.
But when you read an entry like SCP-610 or The Flesh That Hates about a virus that turns humans and animals into blobby tendrils of meat, you don't just want still images. You want to see it move. And you can. There are literally tens of thousands of animations and live-action short films up on YouTube that bring SCPs to life in 3 glorious, horrifying dimensions. The channel Forlorn Foundry is home to some of my favorite.
What is that? Is that an eel? That is a giant eel. Nah. I'm never going in the ocean again. I'm sorry. I'm not.
Favorites, creating fancy CGI recreations of various anomalies. But complex visual effects aren't the only way to effectively bring an SCP to life. Some of the most chilling Forlorn Foundry adaptations are the simplest ones, like their unbearably claustrophobic exploration of SCP-1562, an infinite tunnel slide that is impossible to escape from once you get stuck within its chasmal depths, or the similar SCP-087, a pitch-black staircase you can never reach the bottom of. My favorite moment in this video is when someone trapped on the stairs drops a coin off the railing, and the anticipated sound of the coin hitting the ground just never comes. It's seriously clever filmmaking, conveying the dread and anxiety of the original entry, and I think that's part of what motivates Forlorn Foundry and similar channels, a desire to recreate how the best SCPs feel when you read them. And I'm guessing that's why there are so many adaptations of SCP-3008.
Ikea, a place where children could play while their parents shopped, where friends could share good cheer. His vision has come to pass. Ikea has just opened its 70th.
You know, I never been to an Ikea before. I'm not gonna lie. I never been to one before, so I gotta say though, the very simple concepts but very horrifying stories I love. It's such a, like, it could be simple premise, like Infinite Stairway, but then you're going through the story of this random person that got stuck there, seeing them slowly break down and start getting lost in their thoughts because it's going down and down and they're thinking they're delusional, and then they start going crazy and then hungry and then irrational and then start being desperate, and you know, you see, I can see all this different type of stories that you could apply that to, and all this different things, because everything here is so simple and some of them are complex, but it's so intriguing. I like this idea.
The most renowned SCP in the subcategory of immeasurable spaces is the Infinite Ikea.
Oh no.
An extra-dimensional version of the already labyrinthine retail store that literally never ends. Something about wandering the furniture displays in perpetuity, forever unable to find your way back to the entrance, has struck a chord with the internet, leading to countless digital recreations. I've seen references to the Infinite Ikea well beyond the sphere of SCP. There are entire fan games about this concept, letting you get lost among the endless furniture displays as a gnawing loneliness sets in. It's a sensation that I find strangely familiar. I'm sure many of us have early memories of getting separated from our parents in the supermarket. Even if it was just for a brief moment, the aisles suddenly felt larger and more threatening, and there was a sense that you'd never find a way out. I think many of the most well-known SCPs are rooted in these half-remembered childhood fears, which helps explain their infectious popularity. There's something universal about the vertigo of a really big staircase, or again, an empty store that allows SCPs to leave a wide audience feeling unsettled. But they're also kind of hilarious. Like, being stuck forever in an Ikea is disturbing, yet at the same time, really funny in a way that's difficult to quantify. When night falls in the store, faceless monsters wearing Ikea employee uniforms start hunting you through the dark. And while logically that should make things scarier, to me it only adds to the humor. This paradoxical undercurrent of comedy is present in a lot of SCPs. SCP-1609 was a chair that helpfully teleported to people when they needed to sit down, until someone put it through a wood chipper, turning it into a rageful pile of mulch that teleports into people's lungs. And while murderous sawdust would be terrifying, it's pretty hysterical in the abstract. And this, I believe, is the other massive component to SCP's unparalleled expansion. Even if every entry won't scare you, chances are at least a few will make you laugh. And the more of these stories you read, the funnier it all seems to get. The question of why a never-ending ensemble of terrors is so amusing can be best answered by the genre-bending horror comedy film The Cabin in the Woods. Probably the closest thing to a big-budget SCP movie, the story involves 5 friends vacationing at a remote cabin unprepared for the terrors that await them. What at first feels like every horror movie ever quickly goes off the rails, as we learn the whole thing is being orchestrated by a secret organization that keeps every conceivable type of monster contained in an underground facility, monsters they unleash onto unsuspecting youths to appease the old gods. This overabundance of horrors is the key to the film's humor. A single monster stalking a group of innocents is horrifying, but 1,000 monsters of contrasting origins and genres starts to become, well, comical. And it's this principle that makes the SCP series so entertaining. Yet beyond the absurdity of both Cabin in the Woods and SCP is a stark commentary on desensitization. In the film, the technicians in charge of the facility are completely numb to the reality of what they're doing, taking bets on which monsters will slaughter the cabin goers. In many SCP stories, Foundation employees behave the same way, having become apathetic to human suffering after a lifetime of containing anomalies. And both narratives implicate the viewer as well. In Cabin in the Woods, the old gods are a clear stand-in for the audience, unfeeling spectators who demand sacrifice. Likewise, with SCP, the more entries you read, the more you inhabit the perspective of a Foundation employee clocking in to their job, increasingly unafraid of the nightmares within.
I see.
The ability of SCP to immerse you, to make you feel like you're part of the universe, has made its stranglehold on the internet inescapable. It leaves you with a desire to go deeper, to experience the narratives firsthand, and I'd wager that's why games based on the franchise are so insanely prevalent. SCP Containment Breach is quite possibly the most well-known thing ever to crawl out of the franchise. The indie game has an easy-to-understand haunted house format, where the deadliest anomalies escape and hunt you through a dimly lit facility. And shortly after its release, Containment Breach exploded on YouTube, with view counts on playthroughs so high I'd wager it's how many were introduced to SCP in the first place. But like the wiki itself, SCP Games have come a long way since Containment Breach, with the most impressive from a standpoint of sheer creativity probably being Secret Files. Released in 2022, the title puts you in the shoes of a newcomer to the Foundation who learns about past SCPs while working in the archives. The story is divided into chapters, each with a gameplay and art style so distinct they might as well be different games. For example, one chapter is dedicated to the famous SCP-701, or the Hanged King's Tragedy, a 17th century play that causes anyone who performs it to lose their mind. Appropriately, the chapter itself is chaotic and psychedelic, with the player never certain what's real and what's a product of the anomaly affecting their mind. From an artistic perspective, it's one of the more immersive ways to experience a reality-bending SCP, and can at times be genuinely spooky. On the opposite end of the tonal spectrum is the chapter on SCP-1762, a cardboard box that acts as a portal to a Narnia-esque magical land that paper dragons come out of. The original entry is famous for its uniquely non-horror approach, and to reflect this, the art style of this chapter is bright and painterly, and the gameplay is equally charming. Instead of running for your life, you use stickers to bandage the wings of paper dragons and practice your penny flute for the big recital. The whole chapter, I kept waiting for things to get dark, and while like the original entry there is some truly tear-jerking stuff as the magical land starts to fade away, for the most part, the chapter retains its storybook presentation throughout. Taken as a whole, Secret Files
So
is the
cute.
ultimate proof of SCP's versatility, that it can...
I just want to say, I think it's great that not everything here is evil. It adds like different layers to storytelling, you know? And I'm glad that not everything is you're gonna die or it's gonna kill you or it does this to reality. It's like some of them is just a simple, nice, fun being that cause no harm really. Still an SCP, but I guess what from we saw in the thing would be like under the safe category.
be used to tell stories in any genre. The infinite variability of SCP means that no single game could ever embody the series in its totality, which
What are
hasn't stopped
those?
fans from trying. SCP Fragmented Minds is an upcoming crowdsourced game that seems massively ambitious, taking a more combat-oriented approach in contrast to the more passive Secret Files. Fragmented Minds seems to have a lot of passion behind it, but more than that, it seems symptomatic of a larger dream. There's a phantom of a big-budget AAA SCP game that haunts the ever-growing fanbase, the feverish hope that one day a mainline studio might take a swing at the franchise. It doesn't seem impossible. In fact, it might have already happened. The majority of the game Control revolves around the secretive Federal Bureau of Control, an off-the-books government agency created to seek out, contain, and categorize supernatural items called objects of power. And if that sounds familiar, it should, because Control and SCP are explicitly, irrevocably intertwined. The makers of the game Control have stated that the game's story and atmosphere are heavily influenced by the SCP series. Think about that for a second. A major award-winning company made what is, on some level, a fan game of an indie internet horror anthology. That's pretty unheard of. But the connections between the franchises goes deeper. Control takes place within an altered building called the Oldest House, an ever-changing structure where the Bureau has set up headquarters. Nothing about the Oldest House makes scientific sense. Its interior is infinitely larger than its exterior, certain rooms are thresholds to other dimensions, and the building itself can only be seen by someone explicitly looking for it. And yet despite this, every description of the Oldest House and the altered objects housed within are written in the same dry, confident tone, deeply reminiscent of the language used in SCP entries. The same confidence extends to in-game recordings you can find, where researchers will discuss mind-shattering phenomena like it's all business as usual. There's even an insane puppet show called Threshold Kids the Bureau created to reassure children that there's definitely nothing to worry about. Sure, the building seems malignant and is full of floating zombies, but everything is under control. It only takes a few minutes of actual gameplay to make it clear that no one in the game Control is actually, well, in control. The notion that layers of bureaucracy and paperwork can actually contain the unfathomable horrors long-term is just an illusion. And the same is true at the SCP Foundation. Despite the Foundation's best efforts, the deeper into the lore you get, the more patterns of administrative dysfunction emerge. As in Control, the Foundation is ultimately an under-equipped group fighting a losing battle against forces they can't truly understand.
That makes sense.
Many of the most complex recent stories set in the SCP universe.
Before we go on, I want to say that makes sense in a way, because to be fair, some of these entities that it may run into may be like completely out of their understanding and league, and then they're gonna somehow find a way to not contain it but keep it away, and this is gonna start happening everywhere. Why? Because people like writing overpowered beings without having a realistic limiter. Then also, again, why would you scale these beings to humanity when this entire other universe of entities exists? Which also, like, you know, puts a different perspective on that. Then again, we like writing about us overcoming odds as humans, but realistically, when you have entities like these ones, and like universes like this, and you know, we're not that high on the list at all, pretty much. So it would make sense if we're not able to stop a lot of them, because we're not meant to.
Emphasize this hopelessness, this sense that the Foundation isn't as in control as
Ooh,
they'd
who's
like
that
to
guy?
believe. The recent 20-minute film 096 by Clea Beale explores the tragedy and horror that occurs when the cracks in the Foundation system start to show. The film's title comes from SCP-096, a
Ooh.
monster that hunts down anyone who looks at its face, whether it be directly, via video recording, or even a photograph. Yet the other monster haunting the film is the Foundation itself, a faceless bureaucracy laden with internal corruption that can be just as dangerous as the anomalies it contains. The fact that this franchise went from a bunch of people sharing spooky ideas on a message board to something this thematically dense is pretty astonishing. And 096 isn't the only SCP adaptation of its level of quality on YouTube. SCP Overlord by Stephen Hancock and Evan Muir is an even lengthier short film that captures a similar atmosphere of powerlessness. A tightly wound thriller, it follows a group of Foundation military operatives who are slowly picked off by an incomprehensible threat, made all the more unsettling by the fact that the film never tells you which SCP is taking them out. These filmmakers have made other shorts set in this universe that also don't fully explain which anomaly the protagonists are dealing with, which helps put the viewer in their shoes and makes everything tenser. There's a clear hunger for cinematic takes on this franchise. SCP Overlord, for example, has almost 18 million views.
Oh, that's
As
cool.
was the case with the games, I'm sure a lot of fans discovered SCP through these videos. And some of these new fans will inevitably create their own SCPs, which will in
Right.
turn produce more fan content, which will reach new
Whoa.
people, continuing an infinite, self-perpetuating cycle. The idea of a website dedicated to uncanny terrors that slowly takes over the internet is exactly the sort of thing one might expect to find on the SCP Wiki. But in the ultimate twist, that description applies to the wiki itself. The SCP series and its popularity is the kind of anomalous phenomena the Foundation would want to contain. But it can't be contained, because there's so much more than I've covered so far.
I'm
There
assuming.
are entire channels dedicated to going through each entry in incredible detail. There are graphic novels, short stories, other organizations, alternate universes. The fandom seems to be ever expanding, completely out of anyone's control. And perhaps that's as it should be. While massive and unwieldy, there is such a range of styles and genres across this franchise that I truly believe it is something for everyone. In the end, the most important thing the SCP Foundation offers is a canvas, upon which ordinary, passionate
Right.
creators
Yeah.
can leave their mark.
Uh-huh.
I think that's the real secret to its success, and why this abyss, unfathomable though it may be, is worth staring into. As always, thanks for watching.
Sit
If you
down.
enjoyed this entry, please lend your support by liking, subscribing, and hitting the notification icon to stay
I'm
up
doing
to
that.
date on all things curious. See you in the next video.
Wow. Okay. Okay. That was good. I like it. I like it very much. I like the premise of all of this very much. How expansive it is and how open it is, and it really shows and gives a lot of people to moments to shine on their thoughts and their stories and all that type of stuff. So I'm very much gonna be looking into this a lot more. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see what type of creativity some people may have on this world that they're offering to everybody, pretty much. And it's pretty old, right? Because it's like, what, 2007 when this started? So it's got a couple years on it. So hopefully it's very fleshed out by now and has a lot of good stories. Besides that, that's been the reaction. I've enjoyed it very much. Hope you guys found this a little bit at least entertaining. And besides that, I hope you guys all have a great day, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Bye bye.